Let's hear it for the NASA project Explore the World. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. We've had a wonderful, wonderful afternoon of brainstorming and presentations. I'm sure each facilitator had a good time facilitating, and we're just so delighted on behalf of your dean and the faculty and Ms. Fuentes to bring to you these business case studies that are real world situations that in 4 years that you will be experiencing once you graduate. So I'd like to our two teams who they do not know who won, and so I'm going to tell you a little bit about each of them, and then the winning team will come up. We had NASA. And we had to explore new partnerships in NASA and the federal government. And our challenge was to utilize a facility called the Neutral Buoyancy Laboratory, which is a huge pool that our NASA astronauts train in, to utilize that space when the astronauts are not training. So right now it's being underutilized, and NASA's looking for partners, corporate, government, nonprofit partners, to come in and utilize the space, to utilize the pool, to utilize the training classrooms, to utilize their divers, to utilize the equipment. So we came up with, we had really creative teams. Their names, team one was H2O Marketing, to come up with their business plan. And then we had the Tiger Nuts, a play on the astronauts, Tiger Nuts. Each came up with a concept of who they would go after. They came up with the slogan, and I'm going to share both of those slogans with you. They were both excellent. It was so difficult. If we could have, we would have given both, because it was equally impressive. And I'd like to give a big hand. Please, team H2O, stand up. Their slogan was water, W-A-T-E-R, are you waiting for? You get it? Water, you waiting for. Cute, okay. And our winning team is the Tiger Nuts. And please stand. Their slogan, we think above and beyond. So please come down. Tiger Nut, Team Tiger Nuts. Tiger Nuts. And pass out our presentation so you can see how they worked through their concepts and their creative ideas.
Hello, my name is Simba Webb, and I was the presenter for the Tiger Knots.
My name is Benny, and I was the note taker.
My name is Wendy, and I was a timekeeper.
My name is Q Warren, I was creative analysis.
My name is Renee, and I was the assistant researcher.
Well, I came up with Tiger Knots because I incorporated, TSU Tigers, and we're working with astronauts, so I just came up with Tiger Knots.
Once again, my name is Simba Webb, and we are the Tigernauts. Who pays taxes? Are you tired of wasting taxpayer dollars? Here at Tigernauts, we have an opportunity for you. At NASA, there is a neutral buoyancy lab. It's the state-of-the-art pool that we would like to use for our naval and marine branches of the military. They can take advantage of these pools, and our facility is very safe and will reduce training fatalities. Our campus will save money because we are based in the United States and we don't need to send our troops to other countries to train. All of our classrooms, lifeguards, and engineers are available for your convenience. We hope that you take our marketing pitch into consideration. And remember, we are the Tigernauts and we think above and beyond.
Hello everyone, my name is Terry Stringer and I'm the president of the Houston chapter of the American Association of Blacks in Energy. And we were here today to actually talk with the students about the many problems that are in energy. But we actually covered one that is being talked about quite frequently in boardrooms today, and it's around the water issue, surprisingly. So it was kind of interesting to hear that NASA is also dealing with the water issue. It's around drilling and both water management and access to water, both here in the United States as well as in Africa and other countries. In almost every place where you drill, the amount of water that has to be used for drilling is substantial. It takes at least 65,000 gallons of water to drill a small well. On average, it's anywhere from 65,000 gallons to up to 500,000 gallons. And to actually frack a well, or hydrofracturing, which is what is done to get oil from shale, which is how the U.S. is actually becoming energy independent. The amount of water that has to be used for that is even more substantial, about 5 million gallons to drill or to frack one shale area. So we had actually two teams that presented some really wonderful ideas, and so I'm going to do the same thing that the NASA teams did, because although our teams know because I went outside and told them, but they did not know in the room who won. But we had two teams that presented some really good ideas on some things that I thought were innovative ways that we may be able to do some things with water. The first team, and I'll ask you all to stand up, was called OWP LLC, which was Oil Water Production LLC. And if you all could stand. They provided some examples of ways that we could actually pull water and purify it through freezing it, because oil doesn't freeze, so they would be able to separate the water. They also wanted to build a pipeline in areas where water is scarce to get the water from the ocean to the area where the well is being dug, and a couple of other really good ideas. So Team OWP LLC, congratulations, that was an excellent presentation. Now our winning team was Energy Works. And they actually took each of the problems that we presented to them, and while they presented one solution, it was a solution that would transfer across all of the problems that we presented, which were environmental, regulatory, as well as ethical. So with that, if I could have Energy Works stand, our winning team, and if you could come up and present. And just as our NASA team did, I have information I can pass out to you so that you know what they provide, what they worked on.
Yeah, you just gotta introduce yourself. Y'all start. Start from that side. I'm Jared Croft, and I was the researcher.
Somebody strangled America's heart. Kenneth J. Hunter. Kenneth? Okay, I'm Kayla, and I was the timekeeper.
My name is Candy Davenport, and I was the note taker.
My name is Ariel, and I'm one of the presenters.
My name is Jada Rogers, and I was a presenter.
My name is Bryson Brown, and I'll be presenting the whole thing today. So, the name of my company is Energy Works, and we did have 3 issues we had to tackle, which was with the environment, regulations, and ethics. So, first with the environment, the challenge we came in contact with would be a movie challenge. We knew the process, yet there were many adverse effects to the process. The cause of this problem with the environment, dealing with the drilling and all that, is energy/water scarcity due to overpopulation of the areas, which we know around here in Houston is overpopulated. And this will affect the people in those overpopulated areas. So lack of water would mean scarcity, basically. So to our regulation, our issue was a quest because we knew what to expect, but how to execute it was kind of our problem. The cause was not enough info starting off with because we went onto a government regulation site, and it wasn't clear on what the regulations actually were. So in order for us to stay out of trouble with the government, we would hire contractors and people who knew about the regulations to help us out so we won't break any laws. And the people this would affect would be the company, because if we're at fault, then of course we'll get in trouble, and we don't want that. Next, finally, would be our ethics. Over here first. And we know that being ethical is doing the right thing for your customer. And this challenge would be a paint by numbers because we have the resources and the means. And the cause would be, while the drilling will cause problems with the water being polluted. So what we would do to solve that problem is the water that's polluted, we will send it through a water pollution plant to purify it and give it back to the people in the community. So they'll be happy, we'll be happy. We might lose a little money in this, but ethically it's the right thing to do to keep our customers happy and community as a whole happy. That's it. All right, thank y'all.
Good afternoon. My name is Michael Pearson. I'm here from Amegy Bank today. And our exercise was in the not-for-profit arena. The challenge was that there are many returning military veterans that are facing tremendous difficulty in finding business and work opportunities in the public and private sector. Another challenge was that veterans are disproportionately represented in the homeless populations across the country. And then the third part of our challenge would include the acknowledgement that veterans require social service support beyond the benefits provided by the Veterans Affairs Programs and Administration. So the challenge for our case study was to create a not-for-profit organization and to come up with a solution to address those challenges. We had 4 teams. It was a spirited, competitive event. I'm going to give you the names of those teams. One group was the Hope for Veterans. Another group was Touching Veterans. Third group was A Helmet, a Hand. And finally, the group one, or the fourth group would be Veterans Are Us. And our winner was Veterans Are Us. Would you please stand and come forward to make your presentation?
All right, I'm Desmond Brackens, and I did the research.
I'm Cleo Talma Allison, and I was a presenter.
I'm Ashley Buckner, and I was the timekeeper.
I'm Wesley Vereen. I was the assistant researcher.
So we are Veterans Are Us, and we did the what is the cause of the problem? Well, the cause of the problem, the fact that these veterans return home and they've just been put in the field, they're out of civilization, they're in a working condition where it's really difficult. When they come back, most of them they have disorders, they get traumatic experiences because of what they saw out there in the field. And when they come back, it's difficult for them to fit in to the normal life system, the way of life that we all have here. And then there's difficulty for them to get jobs because they don't exactly, not all of them have the qualifications to get jobs. And then we have they're mentally unstable. Yeah, that falls on the traumatic situations that they go through. And lack of professional jobs, it touches the fact that they have very little experience when it comes to field work. And then we have what is the business? It's a nonprofit organization looking to help veterans, protect the people who protect us. Like, these are people who went out there to work, to fight for us. This is the people who went there to serve their country. So when they're coming back, they need to be protected too. They can't just be left out there on the streets. That's where they are basically right now. So we're protecting them, we're getting them stable, we're reinventing them, giving them new personalities and new life, and just getting them out there. And then for advertising prospects, we'll post videos on YouTube, so they can see what they're going through, how their lives are on the street to get donors. And then we'll have bill cards, and we'll send out bulletins, and then we'll pass out flyers so people can just be aware that they exist and they are there. And then why should the company be financed?
Well, we decided as a group that Mr. Michael, because he's with Amegy Bank, that we would have him to partnership with our organization. And so we felt that he would be a good candidate because he actually shared with us in our workshop that when he goes out and go and get money, or he goes with the company and tell them about his company, that he partnerships, he network, and networking is a good thing to do when you become into a organization, especially a nonprofit organization.
And with the money that he gave us, we would just take it and build a facility so they will have a place to come to and to live, and then just use all the money that he gave us to just put stuff together so we have a place for them to come and just to help them out. And it'd be like a handout to them to help them get back up to the top.
And I think this was touched on already, but the way we would get the word out is through social networks, and also through word of mouth. Like, once a person gets off the street and they get into a situation where they can take care of themselves financially, you automatically want to give back. And so you see somebody who's in a situation you were in, so word of mouth. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you. Oh, we forgot to talk about I'm sorry. We forgot to talk about for our staffing. We felt that since somebody talked about ethical, then we're for the people. So we felt that we would have volunteers to come out, and that when we go out, we would gather more volunteers to work with us as a union. So thank you.
Aljanita Davis, and we had a real exciting project. Our Frame Your Future project was housing the world, and you have to start somewhere, and that is with one community. So with our two groups, they discussed exactly how they would create a company, do a business plan, and get that started. My group one, will you please stand, the members of group one and the Housing Frame Your Future. What was our company name? What was that? Better Life, Better Life. Let's give Better Life a real big round of applause, guys. We had Better Life, that was it. Our winning group was a company named Jewel Real Estate. And Jewel Real Estate, we want you to stand, please. Let's give you a big round of applause and come on down, because you're about to present.
Alright, I'm Ashton, and this is my group with Jewel Realty. And
I'm Amegy. I was one of the note takers.
I'm Dustin. I was the researcher.
Hello everyone. My name is Hoda. I was one of the note takers.
My name is Jared, and I was the timekeeper.
I'm Ebony, and I was one of the presenters.
Alright, so the challenge that we had to provide housing for like a lower income place or whatever, and we chose Brazil. And what is the problem? The problem is that they have a lot of overpopulation, and like their schooling, like there's basically no education system, and the poverty level is high, and the crime and the gap between the rich and poor is like humongous.
I'm sorry. Yes, like he said, we chose Brazil. We chose Brazil because of the lack of housing. I gave reference to them to think of the movie Fast and Furious 6. They were in Brazil, all those 10 homes. A lot of them fall down during storms. So we figured, why not help out another country? Our country has a lot of funding, theirs does not. It's human right to have good hygiene, good shelter, good education, and to be able to know that you and your family can live safely and not be worried about your house falling down. I'm sorry. So yes, our business is real estate, and we also have a construction company. Within that, we build our own build apartment buildings for these people. We decided to use 3 separate investors instead of a bank. That way, with lower interest rates and smaller amount of money coming from each investor.
And why should I come to be financed? I mean, it's basically simple. I mean, we're trying to uplift the community and bring people out of poverty and just help them. Like, they have no place to live, and that's not good for your health. Like, living outside, and their houses get destroyed, like in storms and stuff. So basically, they have to, every time there's like a rainstorm or something, they have to rebuild and stuff like that. So we're trying to get them somewhere stable to live and stuff like that. And we calculated the cost for one apartment building with 50 apartments. It would cost us like about $600,000 to make it, and we were asking for $900,000, and like from the 3 investors. And within the first year, we'll be making about $300,000 back. So we'll pay the investors 15%, give 25% to the community, and we'll take the rest profit. So in about 3 years, we'll pay the investors back. And then the 4th year, we'll be making full profit. And then hopefully by then the community will be up and running to where we'll be able to build more apartment buildings.
Dean Johnson, will you make your way forward to summarize the day for us?
Okay, I'd like for you guys to give a round of applause for yourselves because you guys did an excellent job. in a short span of time to solve a challenge. And essentially, that's what you're going to be faced with throughout your life, and certainly throughout your college career. You're going to be actually looking at challenges, and you're going to try to figure out how to solve them. And as I gave you that little primer of how to organize those challenges, it's going to be very, very helpful for you to figure out what resources you need, how much time you need, and and whether or not you're going to be able to do it, you know, yourself, or whether you need to work with a team. And so, to summarize the day, I chose a title that's a little different than the tagline that we're using. We'll come back to that tagline, Framing Your Future. But as you can see on the screen and in the packet that you have, every one of you should have the notes, remember? Gave you guys the cheat sheets. Getting from here to there. And essentially, these are hints or ideas for framing your future. And there are four topics. One is a challenge. And remember, we talked about challenges already, right? There's 4 different categories for challenges. The second thing that we're going to talk about are solutions. We'll then look at solutions in a little more detail, and then see that the solutions actually pay. Okay, the challenge. The challenge is that if you start out in the first picture up here, when I'm not sure if this thing is alive or dead. I guess it just died. Okay. When you were in elementary school and it's raining outside, everything is in primary colors. You see this child is in primary colors: yellow raincoat, green umbrella, red shoes. And actually, even though it's raining, it's not really, you're having a good time actually walking around in the rain when you're in elementary school. But then when you get to middle school, all of a sudden it's raining, and actually the sun could be shining, but it's raining in middle school, it's just miserable. And then you guys get to be a high school senior, and no more rain. You're free, you're out of there. And in fact, when I came in here, I didn't see any truant officers or dog catchers or anything else outside there, right? You're free. But then you wind up as a freshman. And guess what? It's not only raining, but the water's not going anywhere. This is like Tropical Storm Allison, okay? You're trying to stay above water. And so the question is, how do you get from here to being a college graduate? How do you get from there? It's not a miracle. I mean, there's certain things that have to happen, but how do you get from here to there? Education. Education is really about bandwidth. How many of you want to go back to the old cell phones that you probably never had? Those cell phones are like this big. I call those OG phones, okay? And now, the thing is that most of you guys have 4G phones, right? So how many of you want to go back to OG phone, no G phone, 1G phone, 3G phone, 2G phone? How many of you want to do that? Anyone? No. Okay, I certainly don't want to. And so you can have dial-up, satellite, standard DSL, or maximum DSL. Essentially, bandwidth is the amount of information that passes through some conduit within a specific amount of time. You guys all know that because you know 4G, you know 3G, and all the rest of that. And everybody wants a 4G, and in fact, you guys are waiting for 5G, right? Now, the thing is that when you come to a university for education, what you want to do is you want to expand the bandwidth. If you don't expand the bandwidth, then guess what happens? You want to run a movie and you have a 1G phone. Can you watch it? I don't know, maybe you guys have more patience than I do, but you know, watching that thing just spin around and spin around is just driving me nuts, right? That you want to have as much bandwidth as possible. So in the university setting, what you are doing is you're expanding the bandwidth. It's nothing whether you're smart, not smart, whatever, you're expanding the bandwidth, the ability to take in information and do something with it. Now what happens to a number of freshmen, if I'm allowed to go backwards, freshmen, okay, remember that, okay? A lot of freshmen wind up getting stuck in routines where they don't add bandwidth. And worse, some actually lose bandwidth. Study after study after study shows that if you don't add bandwidth as a freshman, then take your high school GPA and minus 1 point from it. Not a decimal point, minus a whole point. So if your GPA was 2.5 in high school, by the end of your freshman year, your GPA is going to be 1.5. And guess what? I ain't talking to y'all, okay? If you get to 1.5, you got to sit out, okay? It's like being back in elementary school where you have to stand in the corner on one leg, you know, that you're in punishment. I'm saying, that's ridiculous. What you want to do is you want to move from there down this way. All right. Well, now we want to expand our bandwidth. How do we do it? And actually, why do we do it? And that's what I show here on the screen. Mini accounting, class going on here. You have assets. Those are things that you own. You have liabilities. That's what you use to finance those assets. And then I added something here that accountants don't usually add, and that is things that you crave that eat assets. Okay? Things that you crave that eat assets. Have you heard of the termites? Right? Now you have a house and you have termites. Guess what happens to your house? What happens? Anyone? It gets destroyed, right? So the things that you crave eat the assets, okay? And so what you want to do if you want to increase your bandwidth is you want to increase your assets and decrease the stuff that destroys the assets. This destroys the assets. This means that you don't own what you think you own. And worse, if this is bigger than that, you're in trouble. And that's when your GPA drops by 1 point or more and you're out of here. Now, when you do this, as you increase your bandwidth, you're going to increase your value, both personally and also to the community. I'll draw your attention, most importantly, to two items on here that are highlighted. One, your financial liabilities, student loans. The reason why you have the student loans is because you're borrowing the money to invest in the development of an asset called your human capital. But if you're borrowing the money to buy sneakers and t-shirts and hang out, then guess what? You're borrowing the money, but the sneakers and t-shirts and hanging out ain't gonna pay for the loan. And unfortunately, student loans are one of those things that never go away unless you pay them off. So one of the things I tell you is that, hey, if you're going to be managing your bandwidth, you want to manage your student loans so that student loans are being used for the purpose that they were originally planned, not some purpose that your friends tell you or you thought. No, originally you use them because you're a student and you need the loans in order to expand your bandwidth. Asset eaters, bling addiction. How many of y'all are bling addicted? Well, you're not dressed up in the bling stuff today, but I'm sure that a number of you have it, or you're a recovering bling addicted person. But bling addiction, Me Too spending, blues binge, you're miserable, something happened to you, relationship broke up, and you're just like, so you're spending money. And so all of those things they're like termites, eating away at your assets, eating away at your house, and your house is gonna collapse, okay? And so what I'm saying is that you need to mind these things. That's one of the reasons why I have a coaching and counseling center. For people who actually have some of these problems and they don't want to admit it to any of their friends, or they at least admit it to themselves and go to the coaching and counseling center to start to work on how to get out of that funk, because that's going to just lead to you losing your assets. And then of course your assets consist of your human capital, which is what I'm going to focus on. That's the most important asset. Earning assets, that's investments. Legacy assets, those are assets that you leave to people, not just financial, but the things that you do if you have children that you add, the things that you do to improve your community. Those are legacy assets. And then there are working assets that you also have to manage. You know, a car and a house is a working asset. They're not an earning asset. Why? Because if I buy a stock in, say, IBM, I put my money in IBM, and then, either IBM does well or it doesn't do well, but that's the last time I have to put any money in. But when I buy a house, I gotta fix the roof, or the plumbing at some point's gotta be fixed, right? Refrigerator goes out. I buy a car, so I gotta every year or every 6 months, depending on the type of car, I gotta actually take it in for service. It eats money. Okay? It's not just that you bought that asset and it grows, it actually eats money. So you wanna manage these working assets as well. All right, so everybody, okay, this is not a trick question. Which picture shows people decreasing bandwidth? Right, these cats over here, look at them. They're sitting in the classroom, and they say, well, being in class, if you guys were at the orientation yesterday, the university had, they said, you must go to class. And so these people say, well, I must go to class. Well, I'm just here, all right? And the bandwidth is just decaying. These folks are engaged. They're there to learn something. They're there to figure it out. They're not just sitting there because they were told that they had to be there. They're there because they may not even want to be there, but they're there and they're making something happen. Expanding their bandwidth. Now, in order to expand your bandwidth, you're going to one of the things that I want to focus on is increasing your human capital. That's your abilities. And your human capital is increased by what I call intellectual vitality. I don't have time to go through all of these things, but let me just summarize this. If you were to apply to a school like Harvard or Yale or one of those places, what they do is they look for people with high intellectual vitality. Now they also have, people who have high SAT test scores. But that's not what gets you in. That just means that you're in the pool of people that they consider. But of the pool that they consider, they want the people with the highest intellectual vitality. As it turns out, you don't have to have the highest SAT score to get into Stanford or Harvard or any of those places. You don't. You just have to cross over what their standard is in terms of the SAT score. What differentiates you, what gets you into the school, is your intellectual vitality. So at Stanford, Tiger Woods went to Stanford. John McEnroe, former tennis star, went to Stanford. Well, what did they have? They had intellectual vitality. I'm going to tell you what it is. It is a curiosity for learning. It is a passion for knowledge. And it's the willingness and the ability to get up and do something about it yourself. Do it yourself. So what did Tiger Woods show up doing? He showed up playing golf. He learned how to play golf. Yes, his father was there, but he learned how to play golf. It became a passion. He learned everything about golf. And he did it himself. He wasn't sitting there waiting for somebody to do it for him. Each one of you has a level of intellectual vitality. And guess what? You can actually grow that. And if you grow that, you expand what? Bandwidth. Okay, bless you. If you're going to increase your human capital, which expands bandwidth, you want to get the most out of your education. So here, I just want to point out that the key in this particular diagram, because all of these things are connected, is that you need to have a strategy for your education. So I hark back to my son. My son was always an excellent writer, always an excellent reader. And he goes to college, and he gets a B on a paper. He had not ever gotten a B on a paper. So at that point, he was shocked. He was absolutely shocked. And then what he did was he then said, okay, I'm not getting another B. And so what he would do is that he would write his paper well in advance of when it was due, then go to the writing center, even though he was an excellent writer, and bring it to the writing center and have them review it. Then he would actually rewrite the paper based on the comments from the writing center, and then for those classes, because those classes at school he went to were large, he would then go to the TA and hand the paper in and say, hey, look, take a look at the paper and tell me if there's something I'm missing. TA gives comments, he went back and he wrote the paper again. And then he would catch the faculty person on the fly and say, hey, look, could you just take a quick look at this thing? And the faculty person would say, oh, sure, I'll take a look. I'll take a look. And he would get an A. And then he'd say, now, the other guy, and somebody else, they handed the paper at the last minute. The paper's due at 12 o'clock. And at 12:59, they show up and they say, well, the dog was there, and then it was raining, and what else was there? What else was there? They say, are you the governor of Texas? No, we can't remember what the third one was. Okay, and so, but they handed in an hour late, and when they handed in, it ain't right, because they didn't put the stuff together. So now, let me just show you something that I'm going to ask you guys to do, based on a story about myself. So now, on cue, when I cue you up, I'm going to say, that ain't right. So say, that ain't right.
That ain't right. That ain't right. That ain't right.
But it makes sense. Okay? So remember that. That ain't right, but it makes sense. All right, so here I am, I'm a freshman. I show up at college, and in those days, almost every class was required. So I'm in a speech class, and I show up there, and I had a cavalry hat on, and I had a half leather jacket with free Huey and free this and all kinds of radical stuff on it, and I'm sitting in the classroom, in this speech class, and the professor, she walks up in the front of the class and she says, this is speech thus and so, okay, and the only acceptable accents in this class are preferred Midwestern, that's the preferred, but Southern will be acceptable and New England will be acceptable. Now, because I'm there, I'm from Brooklyn, so if you've ever heard Mike Tyson talk, that's the way I talk. And I said, that's outrageous. And she said, sir, no it's not. And take your hat off. And I said, excuse me, hat down. God, I got a C in that class, I can't believe it. So, that ain't what? Right. But it makes sense because I no longer say sandwiches. Okay, I no longer say hamburger and cokes. I no longer say, oh gosh, I can't even say some of the things that you say with that accent. That accent would have been deadly. Okay, it's just gone. And so, no, it wasn't right. I got to see, but hey, it made sense because I didn't know what I was doing because I was a freshman. Okay, so now I didn't have a strategy. My son created a strategy. So one of the things you need to do is create a strategy for your education. It was talked about a bit when Ms. Wiley talked to you guys. A bit. So time commitment is something. When I teach a class, say if I teach a class in investments, I have managed billions of dollars. But it still takes me for a 3-hour class, and I've taught the class 1,000,000 times, it still takes me 3 times the amount of hours that I spend in the classroom. That doesn't include writing exams or grading exams to actually put the class together. So here you show up, you haven't read anything when you get there, and then when you leave you have bought sneakers with the money so you don't even have the books. And you don't even spend half 3 hours because half the time in the class you are sitting around like this. And then how can you expect to learn anything? How do you expect to compete? You gotta have a strategy. Time commitment. You gotta put time in before the class and time in after the class. You need to form study groups with people who are serious about learning whatever it is that you're working on. And then last but not least, you need to go and talk to either the tutors or the TAs or the faculty so that you get it right. Very, very important. Next. Okay, when you are dealing with expanding your human capital, there's something called know-how and know what, okay? So if you don't know how and you don't know what, guess what happens? You're out, okay? You're not going to talk to you, all right? Okay, but then there's a bunch of people that you know, and I'm sure you know people like this, who know how, but they don't know what, okay? And so in this context, the know how but don't know what, this cat doesn't know that there's no basket over here to shoot the ball in, okay? But he knows how to shoot, right? And so you don't want to be in this category, know how, know what, because you're either fired or you're not going to get a job, okay? You want to be over here, at minimum here, where you know what, but you may not know how, or you know what and know how. That's where you want to be. If you do that, then you will have expanded your bandwidth. Now, one of the things that's important is that the way that you get to know how and know what is that you have internships. And Dr. Berger talked to you guys about that. And I want to tell you, because you certainly should share with your friends, for your generation, I'm not sure if this is alive or dead, no, it still is, that for your generation, working at Popeyes ain't gonna get it. They ain't gonna get it. You know, you come to Amegy Bank and you say, okay, well look, I did very well in school, and then Mr. Pearson says, okay, well what did you do while in school? I said, well, I worked at Popeyes, I was a CSR. I said, well, you know, maybe Popeyes is still hiring, let's go check them out. You know, get a job. You have to have an internship. Whether it's paid, unpaid, whatever it is, it's got to be an internship. That's a difference for you. Why is it a difference? Because today, corporations hire talent globally. They can hire somebody in India or China. They don't have to hire you. But one of the things that happens is the populations of India and China are so large that those people don't have internships. That's one way you can actually distinguish yourself. Now I'm going to tell you something. In India and in China, they're actually working on getting their students to have internships. So, but you are going to be behind the 8 ball if you don't have one. I'm going to tell you that if you don't have one, then you're not going to be able to answer the question of knowing how and knowing what, because you've never been anyplace. All right, so now, if you expand your human capital, you need to work on on your humility, self-esteem, caring about others, and self-awareness. This is something that's covered in BADM 101, and also for those people who want, you can actually go and spend time in our coaching and counseling center, because this is very, very important. And one thing that I want to emphasize with all of this, in terms of increasing your human capital, is that every day you should be able to check off the box that you've added bandwidth in these different areas. Every day. Because if you're not adding value in these different, adding bandwidth in these different areas, then guess what? You're just moving towards that at least 1%, 1 point down in your GPA. Okay. Last but not least, in terms of expanding your human capital, is that you need to have mentors, coaches, and advocates. That means you need to network. You start out with friends and family. That's how you got here. But remember that cat was jumping up and down because they graduated from high school? Now what you need to do is you need to develop a network of people who are going to actually help you towards your career. And those people are going to be mentors, coaches, and advocates. Now, I'm not saying that you shouldn't have friends, but if you don't have these people in your group, then you're just not going to get anywhere. You're just not. Okay, here's the punchline. All right. Increasing your human capital pays. This is data from the federal government, Bureau of Labor Statistics, and what they did was they looked at the average income, average weekly income for workers who have this level of education, and the average unemployment in 2012. You notice something? Can anyone tell me when they look at this thing? What does it tell you? Could you stand up and say that a little louder?
The higher you go with your degree, the more money you're making, the less chance of you being unemployed.
Right, so how many people want to be down here? Those people who want to be down here, y'all are free to go right now. Bye, see y'all later. Well, those are the people also who would wind up with not increasing their bandwidth, right? They start out with a bandwidth like this, and then they think that when they come back in the spring, they still have the same bandwidth. They could just leave right now. You don't need to waste your time. Okay. But this is the truth. This is the data that 12.5%, almost 12.4% of the people who have less than a high school degree were unemployed last year. And then when they had a gig, they only made $471. Now I know that some of you people are holding out hope that Popeyes and the other chicken places are going to pay you $15 an hour, but I used to own a pizza business, and I can tell you one thing, I close it, I don't own it anymore, I close it before I pay $15 for people that I really don't think should get paid $7. But guess what? If you're a student, you can take $9 working on campus. So why would you actually want to be in a $7 an hour job? But the bottom line is that as you go up in education, your income goes up and your experience in terms of unemployment actually goes down. Now what happens here when you get the professional degrees, these are medical doctors, attorneys, pharmacists, and so they tend to have a lower unemployment rate than someone who has a PhD, and they tend to make a little bit more money. So you don't necessarily have to go to a PhD, but the point is that this relationship holds. The higher up you go in terms of education, the lower the chances that you get laid off, and the higher the amount of money that you make. So the choice is yours. I'm not telling you which way to go. I'm just telling you what happens if you go that way versus that way. Back in the early 1990s, there was a T-shirt that was pretty prevalent in Miami, and that T-shirt was what you see on my left and your right. It's called "Second Place is the First Loser." And when I saw that T-shirt back then, I said, "That's ridiculous," because that means that pretty much everybody's a loser, right? Pretty much everybody's a loser, because how can everybody be in first place, right? And so, while we have fashioned T-shirts that you'll receive that say "Frame Your Future," the alternative, second place is the first loser, or frame your future. Now, I'm going to ask you guys, with that what I said before, when we talk about second place is the first loser, that ain't right. Right? That ain't right. But it makes sense. Okay? It makes sense. The reason why it makes sense is because those are the people who don't understand that they have to expand their bandwidth. And the reason why you're in second place, third place, out of this place, okay? The reason why you're in that situation is because you didn't expand your bandwidth. You can't be second place for yourself. You can't be second place for your potential. But if you decide to be second place for yourself and your potential, then you're the first loser. And it doesn't matter whether you're the first loser, or the second loser, or the last loser. Guess what? What are you? A loser, all right? Now, that's a choice that people can make. And many people make that choice. They say, "God, I just want to be a loser," okay? But I'm not sure that the people in this room want to be a loser. And so if you don't want to be a loser, you need to frame your future. It's in your hands what you do. But what's really important is that you came to this institution, and one of the things that we do at this institution is that we're here to help you as you frame your future. But if you want to be a loser, I ain't got time for a loser. How many of you have time for losers? You have time for losers? I don't have time for losers, okay? Because what a loser's gonna do? The loser's gonna bum off your food, bum off your stuff, and then you know, and all you have is nothing, and they have everything, right? So you don't want to have losers in your life, and what we do? No, you don't change it. I'm so sorry. You don't want to have losers in your life as long as you can manage it, and for sure you don't want to be a loser. So I say frame your future. We've given you a bunch of tools for that, and now I turn over. No, I turn over to the I'm not sure who's next. Oh, the awards are next.
Yeah, the winning team. Get some hand claps for so the first team.
So you want the facilitators up here too?
Yes. Can I get all facilitators up for the winning teams to present the
I'm going to call them up one at a time.
Yes. Let's do NASA first. And the winning team from NASA was?
Tiger Nuts.
Tiger
Where are
Nuts.
my tigers?
Tiger Nuts.
Tiger Nuts.
And how many?
Five. And what did they get? What did they get? I mean,
Well, they'll find out.
They're
We
gonna find out.
want to take a picture of these guys.
Outstanding team project for Tiger Nuts You're winning a Samsung Galaxy Tablet 2.
Yeah, we're gonna.
Was everybody getting one? Everybody's getting one.
Everybody on the winning team.
Everybody on the winning team.
I said awards. No, they get to keep this later. We want to take the picture.
Everybody has an award. Everybody has
I will step behind.
Let's get close.
Okay, can we get our next team prepared to come down? You can just stand over here to the left.
Thank you.
AABE.
Very nice job. Congratulations.
Get paid to stay.
And of course, the winning team for the energy section from AABE was the Energy Works team.
Congratulations. Now you all aren't getting the same things. You all are getting something different. You're getting a Galaxy Tablet 2. That's with a different accent. Here, you gotta come over.
Oh, you can come back here.
Oh, we have Joe.
Winning team, winning team. Over here. Winning team.
Okay, can we get the Amegy team forward? Amegy.
Veterans are us. Come on down, team.
Veterans are us.
Yes, come on
Veterans
down.
are us. Congratulations. What these
And our housing project, House the World. I think our facilitator had to leave.
Nonetheless, you are. Congratulations to you. Three more. Congratulations.
While they're taking that photo, we want to thank everybody that participated today. We're especially appreciative of our facilitators, that gave up a lot of their time to prepare for you today, and we want to say thank you to Amegy, NASA, Alderman Scott Davis, and to the representatives from AABE. Ron, do you have any closing comments? Dean Johnson? Well, then we bid you a great 4-year learning journey. 4 years, right? I think that's the commitment we heard earlier. Have a great evening. Have an even better next week.